Welcome everyone, Chris here. Thanks so much for coming by again. We're doing another great video here. We're going to have a fantastic time. We're doing a gorgeous seascape with figure. We have some palm trees. We have gorgeous ocean, waves, splashing, distant mountains, gorgeous white puffy clouds. We have a gorgeous figure here walking along the beach, enjoying the day, the sunny, beautiful weather here, a tropical scene. We're going to have a lot of fun doing this. I'm going to show you every step of the way. We're going to have a palette with all the colors. We're going to show you how to lay out all your colors in your palette so that you can prep as you go and you don't have to stress over finding your colors. You get them all out on your palette. We're going to show you all of the ways you can do this painting effortlessly. Let's zoom out a little bit. We'll just see a little more of the palm trees and the fuller size of the painting. And there we go. So that's the finished painting right there. And I hope everyone's going to join along, have lots of fun, take your time, and we'll be back in just a few seconds. All right, it's Chris Petrie here. Welcome again, everyone. Thanks for coming by. We're going to have a really interesting time here. We're going to do just a real fun, loose figure in some ocean, maybe a palm tree or two, some rocks along the shore, perhaps. This is one of those paintings. We're just going to kind of start out with a figure, maybe just a real simple figure, and then sort of build some other subject matter around it, kind of like a seascape feel. So this is like a really, enjoyable seascape style painting. Some cool blue water, some nice white clouds, some blue sky, some colorful rocks and grasses and things like that along the shoreline. So you saw the finished painting, and now we're just going to get started on how to work on this and kind of get this composition underway and then eventually finished up. And this is something where we're not necessarily maybe going to approach it like a finished painting. Many times, especially if you're a newer artist, you're a newer watercolor artist, and you're kind of working your way through and learning things, a lot of times your work is going to be sort of like practice work, small compositions. That's how I learned watercolor, really, was doing small parts to larger paintings that I was looking through on books and on videos, and on YouTube I was watching tutorials all the time. So I kind of just figured I would try to do smaller parts to larger paintings first, and then by the time I'm working on that consistently, I'll have painted skies 50 times. I will have painted some fruit 50 times, and I'll have painted a wine bottle 50 times, and maybe a coffee cup or teacup 50 times. So I thought if I just kept painting the smaller parts first and get those little nuances in and get those completed first, eventually I would put all of those pieces together. And that's kind of how I've always approached watercolor, is learning a little of each of the things that go into paintings most often, and then just at some point, after practicing all of those smaller parts for a long time, years, I just feel comfortable now painting those things, whether it's skies, trees, palm trees, rocks, grass, figures, So I'd like this just to be a fun practice type thing here, composition. We'll make a little border around our working area. This is Arches rough paper. It's the orange cover. It's a gummed pad. I like to use these a lot. These are really fun to use. And They come in large sizes too, so this is a really large block, but that's the larger block. This one's 18 by 24. This one's about maybe 10 by 14. So I'll start out with maybe a figure. Let's see here. And then I'll take just a basic rule, like when we're creating compositions or paintings, or even a composition, let's always try to think of the design of things. So you'll hear me say this a lot, and you can look up, if you ever want to look up interesting design ideas for watercolors, all you have to do is just really go into the YouTube search button or search box and just type in my name, Chris Petri, C-H-R-A-S, P-E-T-R-I, and then you type in design. And I have maybe 4 or 5 videos on design, perhaps maybe 10. I've been making videos now for like 4 or 5 years on YouTube, so I have a lot of videos in my archives. So the videos might not be as polished as they are now. I've got better equipment now, better lighting, better cameras, better microphones. But even still, those older videos, they have good information, information in them. They might not be like, again, I didn't use the best equipment years ago. I was slowly built up my equipment and learned more about, how to better my YouTube videos. So that being said, if you just type in my name again, Chris Petri, into YouTube search, and then type in design, you'll see there's all kinds of design ideas that I kind of cover on my videos. Going back, and we'll cover it again here just in a simple way. Let me get some scrap paper. Okay, so we'll use some scrap paper here, and just kind of an idea is, if we're just doing like creating a design on our painting, or even a composition like this where we're just doing more of a loose composition, a lot of times you can be safe by placing your main subject matter in one of 4 locations. So it kind of looks like this. From a design perspective, if you place your subject matter within these 4 locations, perhaps here, here, or here, the main subject matter, that's very pleasing. So you can pick these 4 locations most times in a painting, and if you place your major subject matter in those locations, you'll find that it looks rather pleasing. Not too close to the border, so this is the border of the painting or our composition, like that. So if we placed our subject matter here, and let's just say it's maybe a cube, like that. That looks pleasing. It's in a good, kind of a good location here. So these 4 locations are always good. You might decide you want to put your subject matter up here, or even over on this side. So if you pick any of these 4 locations with your subject matter, if you're just going to start out like we're doing here, where I'm going to draw a figure. So here I'm going to draw a figure, and I'm just going to draw a figure here, let's say. It's pretty safe. It's going to look pretty good right here in this location. Or if we did it over here too, it would look fine, probably. And then, so we could put it here, 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 here. And that's kind of just a basic principle of, kind of like these 4 sections of your rectangle, your painting. These 4 locations are really optimum for putting in subject matter. It doesn't matter if it's a figure, a house, a teacup, whatever it is, flowers. So we'll start out with that idea. And we'll start out with a figure here. I'm just using a retractable pencil here, and we'll get started, and maybe I'll start out maybe lightly. Maybe I'll make a hat here, so maybe someone's looking at the so I'm just drawing from I'm drawing from memory, from just some sketches I was doing recently. So you know, I would say, you know, please feel free to copy my paintings here on YouTube. You know, we just saw the finished painting, so you can work from the finished painting, or you can work from my sketch as I go here. So I'm just gonna and I'm just getting a loose figure in here. And this is by the ocean again, so this is someone maybe just looking at the rocks, or some of the waves and the little sand crabs, and maybe some shells, whatever. This is a woman here maybe looking at some interesting things along the ocean here. And she has on a hat, so I'm kind of just creating as I go, and kind of thinking of, it's a beautiful sunny day by the shore, and I'll maybe make some shadows here. And let's always remember, we like to put our light insignia. So we're going to say our light insignia is like this with our light. So our sunlight is from above, from the left a little bit over this way, coming across the seam. So the light's coming across our figure here, and we'll make a little shadow area here. So the left part of her dress is going to be in shadow, and there's some more shadow over here. So we can denote shadow by just doing some hashing. Some shadow over here, some shadow across the brim of the hat here, and we have some shadow under here, a little bit of shadow there, and some shadow here. Okay, so we have some nice shadows in the clothing and the hat a little bit, just to indicate when we start painting where we're going to add our shadows in. Light's coming from above and a little bit from this side, the left side, over toward the right side. So we have that in, and that looks good. Now we can start creating maybe more of our ocean area here. Maybe we'll let's see now. If we're at the ocean, we're going to be about a third of the way. So let's say our ocean is here. So we'll just put a nice light pencil line across for our ocean, distant ocean line, the horizon line of the ocean, and that's about a third of the way up the page. So if we look at this as in thirds, 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. So we have those three space divisions, 1, 2, and 3. So 1/3 up is like the ocean approximately. And then we'll put some, maybe we'll add some rocks and some sand and things over here. So we're just going to go across like this and kind of add a little line just to indicate where our sand and rocks are going to be. So we're going to have some rocks over here, some pebbles and shells and things. So we're having a fun time so far. We're just getting in some ideas of our figure in sunlight. We have our distant ocean here. We're going to have some waves coming in, crashing in nice, and our rocks along the beach here and some sand. So we're having a fun time here. Some sand over here, like so. And then we're going to have some waves over here. So you can just put just a couple lines here just so we remember. Let's have some waves in there and some white paper with mixes of some greens and golds and blues, predominantly blue for our ocean. And then our clouds in our sky, and we want to maybe we'll go with a few palm trees maybe. So we're going to go with a palm tree here. And then maybe let's sort of kind of think to ourselves what's going to look good. Maybe another one here probably would look good. So we could do one here. This one's a little larger. So we'll have another palm tree here, and then maybe another one. Let's see. Maybe one more here. Maybe this one's a little bit on more of an angle. Maybe a little thinner. And that should be good. So we have some really interesting palm trees here, vertical palm trees, and I just spaced them along this scene here. Maybe I make them uneven, so we would want to avoid, if we take our scrap paper again, some more scrap paper, let me see. So now we'll just take one more look at some scrap paper, and we're talking design here. So when we're designing things, we have our rectangle we're working within. Everything's happening within this rectangle. Maybe we can make another rectangle here just to say, what do we want to avoid? We'd want to avoid going with symmetrical, probably. If we were making trees, palm trees here in this scene, we would probably want to avoid going symmetrical, all the same trees, distance between each other, the same amount of distance for them. What we want to do is we want to go, like we're doing here, one here, then maybe some larger distance, so we kind of break it up, and we have our figure here, like that. So we have our figure here, and then again, like we make another one closer here, perhaps like that, or like we did. I think we have it a little bit over to the right, but as you can see, breaking things up in an uneven fashion looks a little better. Most artists would agree, most people that would look at our artwork would agree. If we came to a show or we went to a gallery and we're bringing our paintings there, or if we have our friends over, or if we're just having fun and practicing and we're saying what looks better, and we say to ourselves, what do we feel looks better? You could actually paint this painting twice. Try the painting first using all equal distances with your palm trees. Then you make another painting and you do this and you add them and you kind of break them up and make them look uneven. And then you stand back and look at both of them and say, what one do you think looks better? Most times I guarantee you're going to like this better. You're going to like this uneven look versus a very equal type of symmetrical look to your design. So try it out. Tell me what you think. And we're going to continue, but let's take a quick break now. We've covered some really cool stuff here. We've got some design principles going. We've got our figure done. We created the ocean, some of the beach area here. So we kind of laid out just the basic design of the painting, our figure first, and then the design. And that's pretty much, we're ready to start painting. So we'll come back and we'll start painting. We'll mix up some paints, some colors. We're going to have a great time here. Always remember, please, if you consider subscribing, right down here on the right-hand side, there's the subscribe button. And if you hit that button, you know you're going to be receiving our videos here every week. So you'll be learning new things each week. You'll be getting new videos each week. You can watch them all the way through. Focus in on all the techniques, all the colors we're using. The more you hear it in your mind, the more you're going to remember it. So when you hear me saying ultramarine blue and cobalt blue and sap green and burnt umber and yellow ochre, the more you keep hearing those names of paints, you're going to memorize your paints better, your palette better. The more you hear me talk about shadows and light and design, whatever we're doing, the more you hear it, the more you see it on the video, the more you're going to remember it, and that means you're going to have better paintings. Because as you paint, you'll remember what we're talking about when we're doing our videos here and what we're watching, and you'll have, I guarantee you'll have better paintings if we're just following along every week. So keep coming by every week, and that's why if you subscribe with the subscribe button and you hit the notifications bell as well, you'll be alerted each time our new video comes out. And then you'll be ready to start, even if you're just watching and you don't have the time maybe to work on a painting, that's fine too. Again, if you just relax and watch for half an hour or 15 minutes, whatever you can, and pick up a few things, that's to your advantage. So get the advantage and get you the results as we go along here on my channel here, and we'll see you in just a few seconds. We're going to start this really gorgeous, beautiful, exciting seascape painting with a figure, and we'll be right back. Wonderful. We're getting back started here. I noticed when I took a break and I'm coming back now, I noticed looking at this, I think we should have maybe another smaller palm tree over here on the left-hand side, maybe coming in from the left side a little smaller so that we can see some of the palm branches over here. So I guess what I'm thinking is if I have too many palm trees where there's not much branches showing and palm leaves and so forth, it might confuse us what type of trees they are. So I'll do that. I'll take a smaller like that coming from this side. Like this, and then we'll have it there. And then we'll just put some palm branches on there. So we'll just remember to paint in some palm branches. Put some indications of lines where the branches are. Like so. And then up here too, we're going to put a few indications of some palm branches here. Like so. And then if we just have a few, it'll actually be very persuasive that we're seeing some beautiful palm trees here. These over here, we're not so much seeing the palms because the palms are up high on the tree and these are closer to us. So that gives us a feeling of these trees are closer to us. The figure is closer to us. And then here we have the trees more in the distance over here. This one is further away, so that builds in some nice dimensional step backs in the painting to make it feel like we have some interesting things being set back in the painting to give us that depth of field. And we're also going to add in maybe a small mountain over here along the like that. That also really looks good, adding in a nice mountain like that, a hill slowly coming down into the scene with a distant shoreline there. Maybe we'll put a boat, maybe a sailboat over here. Maybe we could put a sailboat there in the water, and maybe another one here. A couple sailboats there, one here, a couple there. Just indications, small type indications of some sailboats. And I think we're ready to paint now. So it's always good when we take breaks, we can step back, we can look, and you'll always hear me say that, take breaks. It's really excellent. We take breaks, we step back, we come back to our painting, we're fresh, our concentration's more alert now, and then we kind of look and say, could I add anything here before I start painting? And sure enough, we did notice we could, we did want to add in a few things. The hills, a couple sailboats, and another tree over here, and I think that's good for now, and we can continue. We'll start our painting, and if we need to add anything else too, we can do that as we go, but this is a good start. I'm going to have some paper towels here. I'm just going to clean my palette here, so I'm going to lift up the paint from last painting. So we'll just, I just used a damp paper, I just wet the paper towel in my water pail, and I just get the paint off there, and I poured some fresh, clean water into my water bucket, so I'm ready to go. I have a large collapsible water pail. It's by Holbein. They make them. They're really excellent water buckets, really good large size, and some fresh water in there, and we can get started. Let's start on our figure. So we're going to make some flesh tones, and we can create some flesh tones here, maybe some brown, burnt sienna, a little bit of cerulean blue for some of the shadowing. So we'll have some shadowing there. Maybe some purple for some added shadow. I might need some purple there. Let me get some purple. So I like to, I don't have enough paint in my palette. Ultramarine violet, Winsor Newton ultramarine violet. I'll just put a little bit of that into the palette, and I'll add some spritz here. I take the paint bottle and spritz the paint. Should be pretty moist though. I keep this in my small refrigerator in my studio. So we have some purple, burnt sienna, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, like that, cadmium red over here, like so. So that's some good, I think we can get some good flesh colors there. And we'll start here. So And this one is mostly in shade. I'll go with the legs first, so I'm doing the legs first here. And that's going to lighten up a lot. That's going to lighten up a lot, the color. And we'll go with some shadow. So the shadow I'm going to put here on this side. Just to give it some shadowing. This is in shadow as well. This leg is back a little bit, so the sun's coming from this direction, so you can kind of see the pattern that it kind of leaves is like that. And we'll add a little splashing here just to break up the if we add a couple splashes along here and maybe some blue for some maybe shadow or some sand and whatever, right away it just kind of makes things, it makes the figure sort of blend into the ground area. We're not going to get too worried about the details of the feet of the this figure here. We're getting the main concept here of the figure, the light and shadow of the legs. I want to make sure I continue to keep some good shadow colors here. French ultramarine blue, and then we'll put some more of our flesh tones there. A little bit of purple, maybe two, purple and French ultramarine blue. There we go. And it should blend in fine. And we have some, I'll rinse off the brush again, then I dry off the brush on some tissue. You can put some sponge next to your water pail if you want over there. You can use your apron to dry off your brush a little, some tissue. And then what we'll do is we'll get those flesh tones again, and we're gonna keep adding in our flesh tones to the arms now. So we did the legs first. And now we're gonna, we're working on the arms. And then we're going to do the face. The face is we can't really see the face too much, just a touch of the face in the neck area. Like that. And we're going to have some shadowing. So we'll do some shadowing over here. Now remember, we put the and let's get some warm yellow ochre. Let's start warm and cool shadows. This is all in shadow over here. Warm and cool shadows, let's go with cerulean blue, yellow ochre. We'll continue to use the purple. And I say mix, try to mix up your shadows. If you go over a spot, no big deal. Light, shadow, light. I think I went over a spot there. Lift up. If you see all of a sudden that your shadow didn't go right, try to lift it up quick. So I'm just going with some shadowing here. Warm and cool. Then we have a little light over here on this side, so this is sort of the and this is sort of the light pattern we see just on the figure. Light and shadow. And what happens is it just really blends good all together once it sort of dries. So I wouldn't get too worried if you're thinking it looks funny, or does that make sense? If you think it's looking funny as you're painting it, you always remember it looks much better once the paint dries and soaks into the paper. So avoid trying to do too much corrections, or just try to get the main idea of where the shadows are, and then just let it dry, and you'll see that it sort of kind of blends together nice, and you can just add a few. It's always good to just add a few and that, you know, a few little, get the main, my idea is try to get the main blocks of shadow in first, and then you can add little nuances of areas with the shadows. So you can first get those main areas of shadow, and then once you have the main large blocks of shadow, then you can go in and you might see an area that's a little darker where the shadow is. It might be a little darker over here. Maybe there is a little shadow there. And let's see. That looks pretty good. And if we want to make our, and then again, once we, again, this I always mention, once you sort of get that first wash in, try not to go back in again too much, because that's when stuff starts to, better off letting things dry now. So let's let this be. Let's let this be as it is. We're going to get some, we're going to do some water over here now, and this will be good. Some Viridian, some splashing. So I'm going to start to get some colors behind the figure here to sort of blend those in too. Some ocean colors, and I try to block that in, or get that in now, just to kind of get things going here with the all right, that looks pretty good. So we've made some good progress here. A little bit of cool in there, warm in there too, in the ocean water. Let's add a little bit of yellow ochre in the watercolor. Then we can go in and even go. All right, we're sort of coming along here pretty nicely, so I'm just trying to get in some of the ocean water here. Blend that in with the figure a little bit. Maybe we should add some we're going to add in some white waves here. So we'll leave some of those white waves in here like so. Cobalt blue, a little Prussian blue, cobalt blue, French ultramarine blue, kind of a little bit of all the blues. Viridian green. Let's use lots of colors here, right? You can see my watercolor, my water, the ocean color I'm using, Viridian green, cerulean blue, cobalt blue, French ultramarine blue, and also Prussian blue. So we're using all of our blues that we have in our palette pretty much. And I'll just try to paint along the trees here too a little bit. And like that. And also, if you think you can go darker with some values, tonal values, you can do that as you go, as long as you're feeling this is dry enough. You always keep a watch on your figures, whatever you're painting. The whole point here was, if you recall, we painted in the figure, we got the flesh tones in, and then we did the shadows on the dress for the figure. But then we realized that we have to let it dry, because if we keep adding in stuff while the paper is still damp, it starts to, like, the paint just flows out and it kind of gets a little messy and blotchy looking. So that's why we kind of let this dry. So I think we need to still let this dry some more. So let's take a break even right now. We've got quite a bit of work in already. And you'll see that actually this is a really good start to the painting. We've kind of set the pace for everything, the colors, the shadowing, the light. And I think we're going to have an easy time finishing this painting. The most challenging part is the figure, of course. It always, that's always, everyone kind of struggles sometimes with figures. It's not always easy. But take your time on the figures. Also, too, if you have to use some acetate plastic over your device, your phone, or your computer to maybe get the shapes or the angles correct, do that too in the beginning. After a while, when you start practicing a lot using plastic and acetate, you start to get the feel for figures more. It's like anything else. The more time you put in, the better you get at it. That's all it is, really. That's the real simple rule of thumb, is if you're practicing all the time, putting in some 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, hour here, hour there, you just keep working on it, you're going to get better at all the parts to your painting, your figures, your trees, your sky washes, your ocean washes, all of that. So you'll get this. You can do this. It's just a matter of practicing it over and over. If you really are totally jazzed about this style painting with the ocean and the trees and the palm trees and the figure, all you have to do is keep practicing this one painting over and over and over. And also, if you look on my videos and my past videos and just look up anything with boats or seascapes, Chris Petrie boats, Chris Petrie seascapes, you type that into YouTube in the search bar, and you'll see I have like 20, 30, 40, 50 videos of seascapes. And then there's all kinds of different skies that I use, different ocean looks to the ocean, beaches, the sand, figures, boats. So I have a lot of videos in my archives. You can always go back there too and look at those. But this is enough too. If you just wanted to practice on this one type scene like this over and over, you practice it maybe 5-10 times. By the time you paint this 5 or 10 times, trust me, you'll be able to just zip it and quick and get it done fast in like an hour, or not even an hour. But in the beginning, it's tough. It's slow going. You're kind of getting the feel for everything. So we'll be right back. I just want to take a quick break. We'll take a break. We'll come back, and we'll start finishing up the water, the distant hills, the sky, and the trees, and we should be fine. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, we're back from a break, everybody. We're back from a break, and it's Chris, and I want to thank you again for coming by and watching this video. We're having a really fun time. We're doing this gorgeous seascape with our figure here in sunlight, and we have some really good stuff happening here already. We have our figure in, we get that started. Of course, we're using the alla prima method. You always hear me talk about the alla prima method, and basically that's the method where we start out with our darks first, and then we work and do our lights last, and we don't really necessarily do any glazings over the top of the paper in that sort of a fashion. A lot of watercolor artists do paint the glazing technique, which we also do here on my channel, so you'll see me do the glazing technique often. but predominantly I do use the alla prima technique, which is starting in one place, more or less with the darks first, like this figure, and we do the darks first, the dark skin tones, the dark shadows, some of the darker water areas here where the waves are in the ocean here on the coastal area, and then from there we continue on just painting again in all in one go. We're just painting as we go. We're not really glazing. So that's just something to remember. You'll see my videos. Most times you'll see me doing the alla prima method, which is the way we're painting now. So, and hey, I always remember to ask you, please subscribe. The button down below, right below the screen here on the video, there's a subscribe button. Please subscribe. You'll have fun. You'll enjoy our videos. We make videos every week here on YouTube, and you can just watch week after week after week. And if you just want to watch a video, because maybe you're not so interested in painting, let's say, a seascape, but you like painting flowers, you're still going to learn great techniques and methods, and you'll be learning the colors again. So we always talk about repetition is the mother of skill. So the more you repeat things, the more you hear things and see things over and over, the more you'll remember it, and you'll be able to apply it to your watercolors, and your watercolors are going to look great. They're going to look better. You're always going to improve as long as you're keeping in the game, watching the videos over and over, and staying here on my channel. Please subscribe, and you'll benefit tremendously. So let's keep going here. We're going to take our darker blue wash here, and we're just going to add another bit of darks there. And we're sort of going to do some dry brush maybe a little bit here, you can kind of see. So I just went in with some dry brush there. Kind of break up the monotony of just the same wash type technique. Now we're using just less water. We drag the side of our brush now. Before we were using the front of our brush like this. Now we're dragging the side of our brush a little just to get some interesting looks there. Some Viridian green, some splashes here and there. Gives you the feel of the waves crashing in and splashing around. You can go back in and add a little, activate some of those splashes to create a wash. We're going to leave some of that white paper in there too. We don't want to go over all that white paper. And we'll get in some warm too, some warm wash, some yellow ochre into that. A little bit of warm wash here too. Okay, so we're moving along here. We have plenty of good color still here. So let's keep working our washes with our waves. And I think back in this section here, like so, we want to keep getting that water like that. And then we're going to go with French, we'll make a little darker wash, French ultramarine blue, and some Prussian blue. So we got Prussian blue, French ultramarine blue. Let's add a little bit of burnt sienna to that, make that a little darker. Maybe a little bit of even sap green. And we'll make a really nice dark here across the distant ocean. And you can make it thinner and thicker in spots, the darker wash there. The thing is, if you can kind of see here, I leave lots of white paper, lines of white paper. That's the waves in the distance. couple of splashes, a little bit of warm yellow ochre too. Same here, some yellow ochre within these darks. Oh, look at that, how great that looks. Warm and cool everywhere. Leave some white paper in there for the then we can get some of the sand color over here toward the beach area. We can add some Viridian green, some sand color, yellow ochre, so we start to have that sand color. As we get closer to the shore, and that's all. We scrub around a little bit, maybe we add a little more blue, like that, maybe a little splashing, like that. Looks good. A little bit of sand color over here. We leave some white paper. Let's get some, a little alizarin crimson. That gives us a nice sunny feel, a nice warm beach sand feel with a little bit of alizarin crimson. And if I add some alizarin crimson on the beach sand, let me add it a little bit here and there on the ocean area, just the slightest bit, so it doesn't feel like we haven't added it anywhere else. Does that make sense? Doesn't that sometimes look awkward if you're using all the same colors on your painting and then you just put one color in one area? It kind of doesn't look so good. It needs to be mixed throughout the painting. I feel it looks better that way. So I'm going to take that little bit of alizarin crimson and we'll put some of that alizarin crimson too in this distant hills over here. And let's put some over here too. And that's easy to do, right? Just, you add in those colors. If you add in another color into your color mix, just try to move it around and get it into the onto the painting. So I'll take a little more of that alizarin crimson and put just a little bit in the sky, just like that. We're not doing the sky right now, but now we're going to do this distant hill, and we're going to mix yellow ochre over here. I'm using a different palette now, a larger palette, and I'm not used to. Can you see how I'm trying to find my colors now on my palette? I use the other smaller palette, the Schminky palette, most times. Now that I have this palette, you'll probably see I'm sort of all the time kind of hesitating where to go with my brush. So that's where I lose some time. When I'm painting, I'll lose a little bit of time and I won't be able to work as quick because I'm hesitating on where my colors are. I'm trying to find them, but I'm not used to using this palette. So that's where maybe if I'm using this palette more often, I'll get used to it a little more. And I used to use this palette more often, but now I haven't used it all that often. So it's it's taking me a little more time to find the colors that I need when I'm painting, but that's not a problem. This palette's really fantastic. It's I have a lot of mixing area, which is great. And I'll try to leave some of that white shoreline there. Then I'll go with some cerulean blue over here for this distant mountain. I can paint through the trees there. That tree's going to be darker than this light color, so it's okay if I go through there like that. Okay, a bit of sap green there. And we could always take some tissue and kind of fold it up a little bit, make a little bit of a like a point on there, and then we can lift up a little bit of paint. If you want to lift up some paint, if it goes into the ocean wash and you're doing your hills, you could always lift up a little bit of paint, and that works too. You can also lift up a little bit there. Go. I think we're doing pretty good here. All right, the next thing is let's do our tree trunks here. We'll use cerulean blue, yellow ochre, cerulean blue, a little bit of alizarin crimson, some burnt umber too. Make kind of a grayish color, and then some cerulean blue, more cerulean blue. So we're going to change the colors a little bit as we go. Some yellow ochre, maybe a little more cobalt blue, French ultramarine blue. Cooler. Maybe we have to go a little cooler with these colors here. There we go. A little bit of iridium and some cerulean. That looks pretty good. Then we go down and we do some more burnt umber, French ultramarine blue. Try to get the bottom of the tree here, some roots and things down here, some rocks. So we mix our colors: French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, a little bit of purple. Make some interesting rocks here, maybe Prussian blue, purple. And then we can also mix up some purple, French ultramarine blue, some yellow ochre, burnt umber, kind of like a good mix of some darks. I dip in a little, get a little more water on there, and I'm just going to do some more rocks here. So I'm just doing some rock formations here. Some rocks there, maybe a couple over here. So we'll do a couple splashes, more rocks over here. And we can add some shadows to those rocks too as well, once we let those dry. So again, I'm going to try to do some light speckles here for some rocks. Some good time to sort of I'm going to clean up the palette a little bit here, just so we can get some, it's starting to get pretty muddy, the colors. They look good mixed around. You know, the colors look fine when you're mixing colors, but there gets to be a point where it starts to, too many colors and mixes going on at one time, so that's when I freshen up the palette. And we'll get some more tree. We're doing our next palm tree, burnt umber, and we need French ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, burnt umber, yellow ochre, and we'll do the same thing here. We're going to do there we go. We add a little bit of water because we need a little more water in this mix. You notice we're using more water now because we have a lot of cover. We have to cover a lot of area. We have to cover this whole tree area, this tree shape, and that takes a lot of water. The paper soaks in that water and paint, so that's why we're adding more water. And I just do some splashing this way, that way, and over this way. And so then we kind of try to mix some variations in there, some golds, some blues here. It's more cooler down by the bottom of the tree. So we had some cobalt, maybe some cobalt over there too. Then maybe we add a little red. And I like to mix colors, add lots of colors. If you have a little issue where your brush stroke goes off the page, off the lines, no problem. You lift up quick with a tissue, that's fine. Then let that dry. Don't go back over there because that will, there we go. Then we add some there too. So now this is dry. We can add in some of the alizarin crimson here too. We're trying to make a really interesting looking, we could add some orange. We can mix some orange in there too. Cadmium red. Maybe these are just warm colors that we see. It's a warm sunny day. Maybe a little cadmium lemon yellow. That always looks good. Cadmium lemon yellow. That's kind of cooler up there. There's going to be some leaves up there. Okay, that looks fine. Let's keep going. French ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, a little bit of purple, and some Prussian blue, yellow ochre, a little bit of burnt umber too. And let's get this tree in here. This gorgeous palm tree, look at that. You could use some of that dry brush, let the dry brush stay the way it is. Couple splashes there for some rocks. And it's darker on this side of the tree over here, or shadows over here. So it's darker over here. So we'll adjust the shadows on this painting as we go. Right now we're just getting in the main colors, you know, we're trying to just get the main colors. We can always adjust for our lights and shadows once we're pretty much done with the main colors and the main painting of our subject matter. Okay, so that looks fine. Now we're going to go with a little bit of a slightly cooler tree over here. This one's in the distance a little bit, so we'll make this one a little bit cooler. So we lighten that one up a little bit. We still want to add some gold, some yellow ochre to that. Okay, and then we can kind of mix in some of those lines in there. Okay. This looks really good. Maybe there's another hill back there. So we just added in another hill, a little bit lighter, so that gives us a little bit of a more feel of another mountain range behind this one here along the coast. That looks pretty good. We could even go along there with that. And a little bit of yellow ochre just along the sand over here. That might be a good color for the sand, some gold there for the sand, just a light wash of yellow ochre, slightly. That looks good. All right, we're getting there. So let's, we can still work on, I would say, I'm going to get a larger brush and I'm going to start working in the sky washes. And then I think once we do the sky washes, we'll just finish up with the palms. So we'll have to do basically two more segments. The next segment we'll do the sky wash, and then after that we'll do the palm trees, and then maybe some more rocks and a little more work to the foreground here, and I think we'll be 100% good. All right, so we'll be right back. Get excited. Are you with me here? You can do this painting. It's very fun. Just go step by step. Watch the video one time full through. Then on your second time when you're watching the video, you just stop as you go. So you stop when we're doing the figure. Take a break. Come back after you do your figure. You start putting in your waves. You take another break. So you just take it in parts. And you can also do this over a week time. You could maybe do this one day. You do your figure. The next day you come back. You start working into your washes with your ocean colors. Then the next day after that, you start working in your trees. So you can take your time on this. You don't have to do this all in one day. You can take this painting and do like a long-term approach to it and just say, I'm going to do this in 1 week or even 2 weeks. But 1 week should be really easy if you're working maybe 3 or 4 days on it throughout a whole full week. And each time you're working 15, 20 minutes, you can get this all done. And then you'll have a beautiful painting. And so let's go into the sky wash next, everybody. We'll be right back. Chris here. I'm back again from a break. Let's get started, everyone. Let's get started. Hey, and I always say you're the artist, so again, pace yourself the way you like to paint. If you want to try this and do this in one day, fine. If you want to make this a week-long painting where you do one section at a time, that's really effective sometimes if you're really tight on time, if you're very busy. So you create your own schedule and you create your own way you want to get through this painting and this exercise or composition, if you will. We're just going actually one step at a time here and taking breaks. Every 15 or 20 minutes we'll take a break and let things dry and set up a little bit, and then we'll get back to painting after 10 or 15 minutes of a break. So I'm just going to, since we're doing the sky wash now especially, whenever I'm doing a sky wash, a light sky wash usually, I'm going to get fresh new water in my water bucket. So we'll do that, and we can go in and maybe we'll use some cerulean blue, some cobalt blue. I'll keep the sky light and minimal. I'm not going to go with really intense sky. I'm going to try to go with maybe some white clouds, white puffy clouds in the scene, and some blue sky. Maybe the darker blue sky will be up top. We'll also put in some Prussian blue. And I usually, for skies, you'll notice, I always say too, if you're not familiar with skies all that much and you're kind of newer to my channel and you haven't really watched too many of my videos and you're going to paint this painting and you're looking to do skies, I have a video, I think it's just maybe only recently, maybe a few months ago, I created a sky washes video, and I cover 9 different sky washes. So if you want to type that into the search on YouTube after you're done on this video or before you do your sky wash, you can always do a quick watch of that one. That video is great. It's the 9 different sky washes I do on the one video. And you just type in Chris Petri, ChrisPetri, sky washes, and if you click on sky washes on the or if you type in sky washes Chris Petri in that YouTube search bar, that video will come up, and then you can watch that and you'll see different creative ideas you can do with your skies. So you might want to do it different than I'm doing it here. You might want to try a different sky. So that's up to you. You're the artist. You can create your sky the way you want to. So I'm gonna again keep it minimal. And again, I use a pretty free approach with my skies. I don't draw them out too much. You know, I wouldn't draw probably my sky. I tend to just go with the free approach here. So I just get some paint on the paper and wash, and then I think I'm going to shape some clouds up above. So those will be the clouds up above. So I'm going to leave this very minimal. The sky's going to be mostly clouds here in this painting, and some blue skies up above. Some splashes along the top here, and then I kind of just work in some color here and there, maybe some and then what I can do is, once the clouds start to get into the distance, they get a little bit more like that. So at the top we can leave it kind of free-flowing, a little bit of orange in there, a little bit of alizarin crimson in there, just to give it a little bit of a variation of color. And then as we work towards the and then I think once we work toward the bottom here, our clouds are going to be and I wanted to do that too. I wanted to make a little bit of blue sky there, so I could kind of highlight the hat on our figure here a little more. And then I can take a little more paint and just highlight the hat here a little bit. And we can also add in a little bit of grayish underside here to the clouds. And then if your clouds maybe you can always lift up a little bit of your paint. You can lift up your paint some on your clouds. If you want to diminish them a little bit, make the sky color and the clouds a little less intense, you can just lift up like so. That looks fine. And then I'll put a little bit of that orange at the bottom of the sky. So I just took a really tiny bit of that cadmium orange for the very, very bottom of our sky here, just to warm that sky up a little bit. I'll paint over the sailboat, and then maybe we'll put some white, titanium white paint for the sailboats, and a little more of that orange. And a little more of the orange again. So you can add a little bit of and I think that's fine. I don't want to keep working the sky too much. And then we're going to do a little bit of our you can always, if you see a couple really good, interesting cloud shapes on the tops of the clouds, you can add a little bit of cerulean blue to those areas. And then you can always, just to give it that little more bit of interest, there we go. And I try to avoid overworking the sky, so I'm going to leave that just as it is instead of continuing. And then what I'm going to do is let this dry 100% before I do my palms on my palm tree here. Over here, I don't think we'll do any palms. We'll just leave those trunks of these trees go up above. We won't see any palms over here, but we'll make some palms over here on this tree. And I think that'll be it. Maybe just a couple more rocks on the foreground, and we'll be all finished here. And so we'll come right back. We'll just take another break. And again, I always mention, please subscribe right down on the right-hand side here if you haven't subscribed. So this way you can get videos every week. We're here every week. We're bringing you videos, new videos every week. And then you can work on them. You're watching them full through, getting all the information. It's going into your mind. You're going to remember it so that when you're doing your paintings and your compositions, you're going to recall all the information that we're covering here on our videos. So stay close to our channel here. Watch all our videos as they come out week after week, and you'll definitely benefit. Your watercolor is going to look a lot better. Okay? All right, so we'll be right back. We're just going to take a quick break and let this all dry 100%, and then we'll finish up our final details. We're back from a break, and we're ready to finish up this painting. Is everyone ready? We're going to do it. Let's get some palm trees here going. Let's see. Let's get some palm tree colors here. Sap green and a viridian green up here. Let's get some viridian green. Olive green. We'll do some olive green down here. Some cerulean blue. That looks pretty good. We can also use some burnt umber and burnt sienna to kind of mix in to that. So you can see here I'm just simply mixing out the colors for the palm tree, getting all the colors out onto the palette, and then I can just work right from here, and I don't have to keep going back and forth into the palette as I'm painting. I can get most of my color from here. Sometimes I will go in and get some straight moist paint, straight paint, but like this here for the palm trees, they're kind of lighter in tonal value, so I'm not going to be using a whole lot of straight paint. And then I just add very little water to this at all. This is basically just a damp brush, going in with a damp brush and getting these colors out on the palette. So let's start out here, and I think I'm just going to do some simple. Better to do some quick shapes like this to get started. I'll rinse my brush off, and I'll tap some water off. I'll get some. These are loose. We're going to do some loose type palm trees. We're not going to get too carried away with details and trying to take an hour to do them. Let's get them in fast, quick. Maybe we'll switch over to a needlepoint brush in a little while. Let's start off with this here. So use some brown, burnt sienna, and brown too, and some blue just to get some darker darks here for a couple of the branches in the and then some of this lighter green like that. That's all. A couple of splashes in there. A couple of splashes. We're good there. Okay, so you can kind of just see I'm getting in some overall shapes. And a couple of scrapes, and this is where too we can use our needlepoint brush. So we'll get our needlepoint brush here, sap green, French ultramarine blue, maybe a little bit of French ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, a little bit of burnt sienna mixed in there. And I think if we just get a couple of these, I think we're okay. And then the palm tree over here on this side, very little work to that one. Let's not overwork that one whatsoever at all. Let's really just do minimal to that. We change up the colors a little bit, you know, add some of the darker. But that's sort of in the distance, so that can be more of a cooler. Maybe we'll use some cerulean there. And we could get some cerulean in there like that. And I think that looks pretty good. We don't want to overwork that. Maybe we'll put in some added color in here. Just to darken it up a bit. You could even add in some little interesting bits of color, a little bit of orange, a little bit of red, just to make it look exciting, more exciting. We can always add colors into our washes, and we could add some splashes in there. We can get a larger brush, so I'm going to get a larger brush and go in and get some of these greens here, sap green, viridian green, and then just do a couple splashes like that, just to kind of take away from the and that's kind of interesting to add a little bit of a darker spot here and there. So I try to add just maybe a little bit of a darker wash here and there on a couple of the tree trunks. And then again, we said we wanted to add a little more rocks, maybe just a few more rocks. Maybe we could touch up the rocks a little bit. Burnt umber, Prussian blue, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna too a little bit. And then we could just maybe round off some of these rocks here. There's a few more here. And then some purple for some shadowing. Add a little bit of shadowing here under our figure. And there might be a little bit of grass here too. That might look good, a little bit of grass in this front area. Cadmium lemon yellow. So we try to mix around the colors a little. And I think that's pretty good. You know, you can always, I think it's better to kind of at some point just let it all dry 100% of the time, and then kind of see if there's anything that, sometimes what I'll do is I'll empty my water bucket out, pour some fresh water in there. I think I saw a spot here, looks like some green wash there. I'll just try to blend that in a little bit if I can, that green wash there. I could even take some, maybe a little bit of the cloudy look there. With a little bit of black. Some Payne's Gray. So if I make a spot on my paper by accident where I lean on my paper and make a mark with, let's say, some color that's not the greatest color, I kind of leaned into my palette or my paper and it got a green spot of paint on there, I'll just go in and try to add some color, make it look like a shadow under the cloud, and that looks good. Camouflage that a little bit. And I think we're finished here. I think we have a good painting here. Let's one more thing here. I just want a couple of more things over here. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then, as always, as we're finishing up here, always you can always remember this idea. If you, let's just say I'm not tremendously happy with some of the palm trees over here, I think they look okay. I think they're going to look better when they dry. Right now they're kind of wet, the paint's still drying and so forth, but always remember to plan on, if you want, cropping your paintings a little bit. So here, so sometimes if you're you can crop out certain things on a painting, trim it down a little bit. So if you weren't happy with the top of your palm trees there, you always have the option of trimming your painting down, making it smaller. So if you're starting out with a larger piece of paper and a larger painting, you can trim it down, and you can make it a smaller painting like that. So it's up to you. You're the artist. If you have some extra watercolor paper, you can. The only thing is be very careful. Like you can see, I maybe smudged a little bit on the paper on my painting because I was putting this down. So if you are going to sort of like use something like this, always best to make sure this is 100% dry before you do that. That's a really key factor. If it's a composition painting and you're not too worried about it, you know, it's not a big deal if some things get smudged or whatever. For me anyway. But like I said, if it is a finished painting for you, you know, you would want to wait till it's 100% dry before you put down some mats on there, and then it won't get smudged. Okay, I had a great time. Thanks so much for letting me paint for you and do these videos. I'm glad we're all having fun here. And again, please subscribe. This way you'll stick with us. We'll keep working every week. We'll keep doing new videos, all new subject matter, everything watercolor, seascapes, landscapes, figure painting, flowers, still life. We do it all here. We're going to continue on. And so we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye for now.